In short, capitalism requires us either to remain fundamentally selfish in our dealings with each other, human nature's given, or to become so, human nature socially constructed. No wonder then that our whole lives are being commodified. We are being made only ever to do what is in our very narrowly construed material interest to do, or in other words, what pays. And often we're being made into that sort of being, the sort of person that capitalism requires, through the pretense that that's what we really are already. Adam Smith's observation, whatever his own view of the scope or the reach of the market, is coming to apply to all our dealings with each other. So it's not a surprise, for instance, that universities are being turned into businesses where knowledge is valued only as a source of income, or that the NHS is being turned into a business where health is something that you can buy or sell. Now, a variant on this view comes from Friedrich von Hayek, the other chief guru of neoliberal capitalism. He's disarmingly frank. Capitalism, he tells us, simply stands outside morality altogether. Quote, "The impersonal process of the market can be neither just nor unjust because the results are not intended or foreseen." That's profoundly stupid. They are intended and they are foreseen. The process is invented and directed by people. The laws of the market are not like laws of nature, but like juridical laws. Furthermore, at the heart of these laws lies a particular conception both of property and of human beings. Human beings whom it takes in crucial respects to be like property, or even sometimes to be property. Now, of course, von Hayek's thinking about the markets being run by the hidden hand is skewed. Of course, it's run by people for their own benefit, and it's not like the laws of physics, it's not like the weather. But much more importantly than that, his conclusion is at least half right in describing how capitalists themselves think of the market, and how they would have all of us think of the market. Namely, that the people engaged in it are fundamentally things, like the wind and the rain. And of course, neither wind nor rain can be subject to moral or political judgment. So, if you can be persuaded that the market is indeed outside morality and that it concerns not people but things, you won't pester the capitalists by making political judgments about it, and you won't pester them by telling them that they're wrong. And if you can be persuaded also of two more falsehoods, that that's what human nature's like, and furthermore, that it's because human nature unalterable, then so much the better. So let me repeat, one way of understanding Cant's principle, that we shouldn't use each other or ourselves merely as means to an end, is to notice that people are not things. And from that it follows that we're not property. Now, that's what I want to focus on. This view of what we either are or should be, property, is clearly reflected in the main duty under capitalism of those people, the directors, who run a company. It's simple, it's clear, and it's problematic. Their duty is to maximize profit for shareholders. A director has to act so as to ensure that those with a material interest in the company, those who've invested in it, get their maximum return. It's not their benevolence, but their self-interest, after all, that leads them to make their investment. An investment without which there'd be no company, and so no source of supply for those who are its customers. That self-interest, in turn, has to be satisfied if the investors are not to move their investment elsewhere, and the only way it can be satisfied is through what's called, laughably, a financial return. Think about the language. A return on one's investment. Not getting back what you've lent, which is what one might suppose a return to mean, but rather getting something new. Nothing to do with returning anything, in so-called return for having lent the money to establish the firm or to keep it going. In short, the capitalist firm operates through the idea of people getting paid for having lent some of their money to the firm. It used to be called usury until capitalism overtook Christianity. And of course that term usury is a telling one. Why? Because we don't like to use it in public. 2, because of course the shareholders are literally using those who need their money to make money. It's very hard to think of a clearer example of using people merely as a means to an end. And that's, of course, just the beginning. Having used merely as a means to an end the firm itself, of which they're now part, the shareholders, as part-time owners of the firm, use merely as a means to the end of making a profit both the firm's workers, those who consent, so to be used because they need to make a living, and the firm's customers, who either need or can be persuaded to want the product. It's not the workers or the customers who count. Their role is fundamentally subordinate to the business of making a profit. They are being used merely as a means to that end.